on today's episode of I just got back from work and I don't really feel like cooking, but I'm gonna cook anyway. I'm gonna make some Swedish meatballs with, oh, 1 second, some fingerling potatoes, and then I also found the very important addition, which is lingonberry jam. I have some ground beef here that we actually got at the farmer's market. I feel like buying like quality meats really motivates me to actually do something good with them. Whenever I cook anything, especially dinner, I always have a little scrap bowl with me because I hate going to the trash all the time. So that at the end I can just dump it all at once. So now that I chopped the onion, I'm actually gonna saute it. That's always, I know people do that in other meatball recipes too, but that's very classic for Swedish meatballs. This is my favorite pan ever. It's Heston, and I got this from Food 52. Do a little bit of olive oil. I have some salted water here, boiling for the potatoes. Gonna add a little bit of salt just to kind of sweat out the onions. It was a really fun day in the test kitchen today because Sister Snacking, I'm sure you know them, came in to film a video with me. It was Maddie and Carly, and we made their famous vodka pasta. It was so good, and we did a little burrata on top, and they were so friendly, and it was so interesting to hear kind of how they choose which restaurants they're gonna go to, and also how many they go to sometimes. Like, sometimes they go to 9 a day, which is insane. Props to them. I just realized that we are out of a critical ingredient for meatballs, and that's eggs, because that acts as like such a binding agent, but that's okay. They're still gonna end up being fine. But I'm gonna do a little bit of breadcrumbs, and this might be controversial, but I'm gonna do a little bit of oat milk just because I try to not eat too much dairy. And honestly, usually when I cook with oat milk, it ends up tasting very similar. Anyway, the onions are almost done. I'm gonna let this sit for just a minute or two, just so that the panko can get soft and it kind of thickens a little bit. Usually I would use regular breadcrumbs, not panko. We're doing a lot of swaps here tonight, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I always like to just use what I have, and it usually turns out fine. I'm gonna add a decent amount of salt and lots of pepper. Okay, the onion is done, so I'm gonna add it right into the meat. I'm trying to think of like what really diversifies or what really makes a Swedish meatball different from like an Italian one or an American. And oh, I gotta add this too. And I feel like what are the main differences is the spices. So obviously here we're using sauteed onion and we're using breadcrumbs, and normally you would use an egg too. And then you usually serve Swedish meatballs with like a really creamy gravy and then the lingonberry jam, of course. And then American meatballs, you do, I feel like usually you do like Italian herbs. But Swedish meatballs was always one of my favorite meals growing up as a kid, and I feel like still is. I kind of also feel like it might have been one of the first things I cooked for Lucas. I'm not totally sure. Okay, really get in there. I feel like the best thing about meatballs is you don't really have to always go by recipe. Like, I'm not using a recipe right now. You can kind of just add whatever, and as long as you season it enough with salt, then it's gonna be really good. The hard thing is though, like, my hands are so like filled with ground beef now, and I have to turn the camera off, so that's always hard. All right, I'm gonna roll them into meatballs. I'm just gonna use a spoon. I feel like an American meatball is usually like this big, but we're gonna do about half that size. And remember, they also are gonna shrink up a little bit as they cook. I'm not gonna make a gravy or a Swedish meatball sauce tonight. I'm just gonna serve it with potatoes and the jam and then some broccolini. But usually the thing that I feel like makes the best meatball sauce is you add a little bit of soy sauce, and then my grandpa used to actually always add a little bit of brown cheese, and that's something that I feel like you can get at some specialty stores in the US, but it's basically like a caramelized goat cheese, and it's delicious. I used to actually hate it, but now I really like it. But that kind of adds a nice depth to the gravy as well. But I feel like there's a lot of recipes out there, especially on like US sites, that have a lot of other random ingredients, like sometimes sour cream or cream cheese or like Worcestershire sauce. But all you really need is like beef broth and cream and like the brown bits from the bottom of the pan and a little bit of soy sauce and salt. And then you can also mix in some lingonberry jam in there too. That adds like a little bit of nice sweetness. Okay, I'm gonna wash my hands and then I'm gonna turn the skillet back on and we're gonna fry some meatballs. A little bit more olive oil If you want to make them extra good, I would recommend frying the onion and the meatballs in butter, not olive oil. All right. This is like the ultimate comfort dinner, but also not unhealthy. I think I should make a gravy for the sauce, or for the meatballs. Okay, these look like they're about done. There's a lot of fat in the skillet. I'm gonna just leave it there because maybe I'm gonna make a gravy at the end. I also definitely didn't preheat the skillet enough because there's a decent amount that's stuck at the bottom. Okay, in with the last few. And I think I cooked these for about 8 minutes, maybe longer. Can't remember. So good. I'm gonna put a little bit of tinfoil on top just so that the cooked ones stay warm while the rest of them cook. I'm also blanching a little bit of broccolini on the potatoes. Whoa. Okay, here are the meatballs. These smell amazing and they also taste really good. I did try one already. And then here are our fingerling potatoes and also some broccolini. It's a little bit overcooked, but that's okay. And then of course, we have the lingonberry jam. It's crazy to me that this was $10. It's absurd. How many potatoes do you want? Meatballs, potatoes, and then the jam on the side. Should I finish it off with some Icelandic sea salt? Yeah, and I am. Sure. This small brand called Sautéing sent it to me. Very good. This is perfect. So good. I do miss the gravy a little bit, but I'm gonna go eat this on the couch and probably start a new show.